Excited about the opportunity to be back at the United Supermarkets Arena on Saturday, playing against a tremendous Iowa State team. TJ and their staff have done an awesome job. Last year they had one of the best defenses in the country, and this year they have one of the best offenses and defenses in the country. So their improvement, their maturity, their experience, their size, their versatility, their physicality. They just got a great basketball team, and they're playing great basketball. And we look forward to the opportunity to compete and protect home court, because you have to in this league if you want to play for championships.
Coach, could you kind of talk about the ball pressure that their guards put on you defensively, and kind of a moment that stood out to me against BYU is when they started to blitz the ball screens, and just kind of how Elijah was able to handle that in that moment?
Yeah, I think a key to our team is how well we've handled the ball and not turned it over. And it comes down to not trying to make too big a play and just making the next simple play. And I love what Elijah's doing at the point, because he's letting the game come to him, and he's just – sometimes he could have made some really tight window passes, and he's just elected to try to make the next advantage as opposed to put something that could be amazing but also could turn catastrophic and give up layups. And I think we'll get to the point where he's got more confidence in making some of those tighter passes. But really the advantage of our team is how do you give it to the next player that's open, because that guy is really good. And that's kind of been the positives of our team. And specifically Iowa State's ball pressure, their defense. I mean, to me it starts with Lipsey. He's obviously an all-league player, and especially he's such a great defender. But all their guards are great defensively. I mean, they really can pressure the ball, and probably one of their best versions of offense is turning you over and scoring in transition. So our ability to handle pressure is going to be huge.
And kind of going back to what Darian was able to do late in the game against BYU, I kind of go back to earlier in the season when, the loss against St. Joe's where he misses the game winner attempt. I guess just what kind of mentality shift and kind of leader has he become over the last couple of months? Has that been a change in his demeanor or anything like that?
Well, I'll tell you, the truth is our team's always looked at him as a leader, and he's got such versatility. Take the last few possessions, too, when they jumped into that zone, and he had a couple of times where he could have shot it. He shot faked and threw a great bounce pass to Chance going to the basket. So, and his ability to pass, he's one of the best assist percentage guys, and he's one of the best assist guys on our team. So I think where he's finding that balance is it's what I described to you earlier. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing play. I mean, some of the results of the plays can be okay with get down there, stop, pivot, and make the hockey assist that gets to the next play. And I think that's the balance of being a go-to guy, is what does it feel like when you're the one that needs to make the right play? It doesn't necessarily need to be the home run. You can hit the single. And that's where I thought he made the biggest, just his patience. He didn't put his head down and take one dribble and try to get a shot. And I think that's the maturation of his ability to be a go-to guy in crunch time is just, and I thought it was on full display at BYU. I mean, he really didn't rush it. But he played it aggressively. It just wasn't an all or nothing mentality. It really was simple, and to his credit, he's anchored that. But I will say the area that I think even in the last 3 games he's made the biggest jump is I think there's been an attention to, even when it doesn't go well offensively, he can guard and find a way to rebound. And I thought like the way he came up with a few of those 50-50 plays, got back to like, this is how you win. It's not just when you have the ball. It's like, how do you make a big play on a rebound? Or how do you make a big play on getting that jump ball, on them and collapse a gap better? And his effort defensively has really been as good as his go-to mentality in crunch time.
Coach, the importance of Iowa State being able to attack inside, how important will it be to have JT and Fede being able to play the minutes that you need them to do to attack this inside-out attack by the Cyclones?
Yeah, and that's where I love our team this year. I think we've got the right depth at different spots, and we can play big, and we can put different guys out there with size. Jefferson's one of the best scorers around the basket and really difficult to defend. I mean, I think just in watching him play. He's been tremendous. And then they've got great offensive rebounding. I mean, Chatfield's been huge on the glass. I mean, they're still putting pressure on you in a lot of ways. And, Jackson's been good. They've got a lot of different guys that can score down there and create advantages off offensive rebounds. So the biggest thing for us is, one, how do you control the glass? And then two, how do we do a better job of guarding people and not putting ourselves in foul positions? And that's where we've made an emphasis in practice, is being physical without fouling. And we've kind of gone through this phase where now we've been physical, but we've fouled, and we've increased that. And I think we're coming out on the other side of it, where we're starting to see how you can continue to be strong and physical defensively and don't have to leverage yourself by reaching or making a bad play.
What did you see in the two games in Utah that have shown you the progression that you need to see for this Iowa State game?
The biggest for me has been our ability to play at a pace that I think is comfortable to us and what we need to do to win. And then the patience that is required to get a great shot so you don't put yourself in bad positions transition defense-wise. I mean, just making people earn baskets through a set defense is pivotal in our progression, because our defense needs to improve, and you can't give up baskets where you turn the ball over and give up layups, which we did against UCF a couple of times. We just can't give those transition baskets up, because we've got to improve in the half court. And the other thing would be, and the biggest probably being, just our ability to team rebound and rally in possessions. Like, how do you keep rotating after you've done a decent job of guarding the ball and then they move it to the next action? How do we keep moving in rotations? And our rotations, I thought, got better in the second half of the Utah game and progressed through the BYU game.
Coach, you've talked about the love and togetherness of this team. How are you using those two huge road wins to motivate this team into another home game against a tough opponent?
Yeah, I'm thankful, because, just talking to the women's staff here and the Lady Raiders, just, their travel nightmares of being stuck in Manhattan. I mean, for us, the progression was actually really helpful. I mean, we didn't have to hop on a plane in between road games. We changed hotels, but it was kind of nice because it broke up the trip. We got to practice at the Utah Jazz facility. We got to eat dinner together. We put our phones up when we do, and those guys will hang out and talk for an hour after we finish the meal. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into college basketball that make it awesome. And to me, this road trip, not only from a experience standpoint of being able to improve on the basketball court, I mean, we were able to put together quite a few opportunities where we did get closer. And it is a fun group to be around, and they do enjoy each other. And when you love each other off the basketball court, I do think it is a direct reflection of how you play this game. And is anybody perfect on our team? No. Did we play like we needed to on every possession? No. But to me, the heart and the intent at which you approach this and how you approach it when it doesn't go your way says a lot about the camaraderie of your group. And I thought that was probably our greatest strength on the road for these last two games in Utah.
And then TJ mentioned the similarities between the two teams on offense, and you talked about they're a top defensive team. What similarities do you see, and how do y'all counter their defensive punches?
Yeah, I mean, they've got a bunch of guys that lead them in double figures. They got 5 guys and a 6th that's at 9.6, and Jackson's awesome. And Milan's one of those guards that kind of can do everything. And then you look at the bottom of the roster, and Nate Heisey and Chatfield have been making great impacts on their games recently, and they're not even in the top 6 scorers. So I think there's an unselfishness to their team that you appreciate, and that's what I would hope to be the same thing said about our group. Now, we've got a long way to go in regards to being as tough as they are, I'm just bluntly. But I think our willingness to practice hard every day and to get better in that area is there. It's a matter of getting the experience together, and then I got to do a better job holding our team accountable to those standards.
So Hawkins has really stood out offensively, specifically when it comes to putting points up on the board. When he's on his game like that, how does it just elevate the offense as a whole?
Yeah, I'll tell you, the area that he's really elevated his game is just as a floor leader. setting the table for our offense to be great, maybe not to make the big assist play. And then his ability to space the floor and make threes with so many different guys that we have that can score or can put leverage on the defense has, I think, put us in a different category offensively. And he's always been able to shoot. You can go back and look at when he was Howard, he shot threes at a high percentage, but he was always looked at as a playmaker. And he came here looking for the opportunity to make plays all the time, which I think he can continue to do that, but it doesn't have to be all on his shoulders. And I think early he was trying to put it where he was making all the plays, and it's not at his fault. It was more out of his impact that he felt like he could help our team. And now he's seeing all the different pieces, and it's not one move. He's seeing three moves, and it is the truth of chess and checkers. I mean, I think he's got one of those mentalities where he was looking at it early as just checkers, like, well, this is one piece, this is one move. And then I think now he's seeing, like, now if we move these two pieces, then I can get this third piece where I need to. And that's really a credit to his investment in learning the game and how we need to be great as a team, not just how he needs to play great.
And so obviously home games are big because you have the home environment, whatnot. I was just wondering, any chatter, doubleheader going on, you all and the Lady Raiders, like any extra excitement within, the team maybe you've heard from the fan base coming into Saturday?
No, I think home games are as good as it gets in Big 12 play. And for us to be able to have both games going on, I think there's a rallying point where, look, it's cold, and let's get indoors and let's play some basketball. So 2 great opportunities on Saturday to see the Raiders, Red Raiders and Lady Raiders, and I think people enjoy anytime you get to go watch some great hoops. And there'll be great teams in this building, and we need everybody in order to win them. That's the truth.
Road trip in Utah, Elijah really stole the show. Like, he had his 12th career double-double, getting 12 points and 10 assists. And against BYU, he had 6 3-pointers coming off a new career high. What's that meant to you? What's that meant to you, just seeing him really elevate his game early on in conference play?
We showed a clip to our team, and Elijah Hawkins on offense against BYU made a pass on the second possession of the game, and we had told them, like, this is how we're going to take advantage, and he actually cut the way that we didn't want him to, and immediately he just put his hand up and said it was his fault. And I think if there's anything I can tell you about what Elijah Hawkins is doing right now is he's got a real ownership to when things don't go right for him. And that, to me, has allowed him to make what I think is about as fast of a improvement of anybody I've ever coached in the last few games. I mean, he's gone from being a good player to being a great player. And I think our team appreciates the heart that he has, that he wants to do what our team needs. And I think that's not always easy to do. It's one thing to say it, oh, it's obvious, the team needs you to do this, you should do it. But when it's not your strength and it's not something that you've done all your whole basketball career, then I do think it's hard to find confidence when you're trying to earn it in the Big 12. And to his credit, he really has been unbelievably poised, and he's not played at a crazy fast pace. He's played at a pace that I think elite point guards do, and he's embraced it, and that's allowed him to do it. And the other thing is his defense has been awesome. And his on-ball defense, specifically in that BYU game, was the most underrated part of our improvement. And so that's where I'll tell you, a lot of people want to talk about him making threes. What I'd prefer to talk about is how well he guarded the ball and did it without fouling. And in the Utah game, he did it, but he fouled a little too much, and it put us in a bind. This one, he did it without fouling, and I thought that was a huge step for our team and our program.
And one of the similarities this Iowa State team brings is that they're virtually identical with Tech as far as points per game in the season, but they also have 9 steals and 9 turnovers. So what's been your message to the team offensively to make a statement in this game?
Ultimately, the way we handle the basketball and do it without turning it over gives us the best chance to win, and how well we can make it difficult on them to not. They're such a good ball movement team. They have so many good scores that you've got to limit it, just every paint touch that you can. So how do we keep the ball out of the paint, and how do we do a good job of not turning it over?
Well, the last time we saw you was about the defense and what you guys weren't able to do against UCF. What did you see from them on this road trip that kind of gives you confidence that you maybe have turned a corner in that regard?
It started with me just holding people accountable and making sure that the areas that are important going into it from a scouting report, that, look, if you're not going to do it, you're not going to play. And that would be one. And two, I think our team is embracing the ability to guard the ball, but also how active can we be in help. And in that UCF game, our activity level off the ball wasn't very good. And honestly, to start the Utah game, our activity was actually pretty good. It's just that we didn't communicate it well enough, and we had too many people going to help, and we had the right scheme, but it took us about a third of the game to finally get that into play because of our inexperience together. So what I will tell you is I thought we made a big jump from the second half of the Utah game to the BYU game and our ability to communicate and be active and help, in addition to our ability to improve on guarding the ball. And anytime your communication improves and your activity level improves off the ball, then I think you can see an improvement. I'm anxious to see how we improve, and like we did in the first half of the BYU game, we weren't great offensively to start that game. And we were against Utah. So it's easy to play better a little bit defensively when your ball's going in. And for me, what I thought was the most improved part of it was against Utah. We didn't play great offensively, but I thought our scrap was what it needed to be defensively against BYU in that first half. And finally, we broke the seal on it that second half when Chance made a couple of those threes, and then we started rolling, and D5 was unguardable there through that stretch. And that's kind of where I like to see the improvements we made, was when the ball wasn't going in, but we were still getting after it defensively.